Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much. Good morning. So it's great to be back at the Cox Science Center. I want to thank everybody here for hosting us and also for the good work that they do. They have 200,000 students that come through here every year from Broward, Palm Beach, and Martin counties, and so that's a huge, huge number. And I know they've got more plans in the works. The state has been helpful for some of that because we think they're doing a good public service. So we appreciate that. And I think it's fitting that we're here today for today's announcement, which is going to continue to strengthen the state of Florida. But before I get into that, I just do want to recognize that we're joined today by the Department of Environmental Protection Secretary Sean Hamilton, the Executive Director of the South Florida Water Management District, Drew Bartlett, Eric Eichenberg, CEO of the Everglades Foundation, Kate Ariza, President and CEO of Cox Science Center and Aquarium, Representatives Snyder and Gossett Seidman from this part of the state are here, and then from the South Florida Water Management Board, we have Ronnie Bergeron, Ben Butler, Cheryl Mead, Charlotte Roman, and Jay Steinley. So I want to thank them for all their support of these critical things. So when we first took office in 2019 in January, we were really coming on a period of, I would say, probably benign neglect with a lot of our natural resources. Our Everglades projects were really moving slowly, and we needed a jolt to move forward. We needed to do something. So we set out a very ambitious agenda to be able to tackle these challenges, not just with Everglades, but with water quality more broadly in the state. And in January of 2019, we pledged that whereas the previous 4 years, there was about $1.5 billion that had been dedicated to Everglades restoration and water quality. Over the first 4 years, we were going to say we're going to do a lot better than that. We're going to do $2.5 billion, $1 billion increase from the previous 4 years, and not only were we able to satisfy that promise, we far exceeded it. In the first 4 years, my first term as governor, we were able to do $3.3 billion for Everglades restoration and water quality improvements throughout the state of Florida. So that's a huge, huge improvement. So that more than doubled what had been done in the previous 4 years. So we knew that this was something that Rome wasn't built in the day. This is a big state. You're talking about restoring the plumbing of the state to how God intended it. It requires a lot of things. This is really ambitious. These are ambitious projects. So when we started the second term in January of 2023, we said, okay, we pledged $2.5 billion for the first year, for the first 4. These next 4, we're going to do $3.5 billion. And so that is a far cry from where we were before I took office. And in our current fiscal year now, which ends June 30th, is the first year since we made that promise, we did almost $1.7 billion alone just in this current fiscal year. So 3.5. So 3.5 billion is a lot. That's very ambitious. So we're able to do 1.7 billion in the current fiscal year. We were also able to, and I was in South Florida earlier this month to sign Senate Bill 1638. So that did a number of things. It basically dedicated the revenue from the Seminole Tribe Gaming Compact to restoration of Florida's natural resources and protecting Florida's environment. So you're talking about water quality, you're talking about infrastructure, you're talking about land conservation, all of those things, and we estimate that to be $750 million annually. But part of what that bill also did beyond putting the tribe's money towards environmental restoration was it pumped another $150 million to support the Central and South Florida water management system. And if you look at what the district in Southern Florida has been tasked with doing, it really is above and beyond, I think, what they have traditionally done at Water Management District, but things that have reverberations far beyond just Southern Florida. So we thought it was appropriate to put those resources there. We think that they're going to be used well. So that was a big win in of itself. Well, now we're here today, and we can say that from January of 2019 till today, we've reached a major milestone or broken ground on more than 70 different projects. And that's a huge, huge thing. And many of you who really are invested in these issues know Old Tamiami Trail roadbed removal project. We did that 6 months ahead of schedule, raising the Tamiami Trail, C-44 reservoir and storm treatment area completed, the state's portion completed. We're working hard on the C-43 reservoir, which is on the western side of Lake Okeechobee. And then also, and I'll mention some of the stuff that we're doing closer to Palm Beach, and of course the Everglades agricultural area. We broke ground on the treatment wetland portion of the EAA 1 year ahead of schedule, and the Stormwater Treatment Center is going to be operational this summer. We were there. We did an event a couple months ago, so that's going to be a huge, huge thing. And in fact, if you look at the flow of water from Lake Okeechobee to the Everglades, or the lack of a flow of water from Lake Okeechobee to the Everglades in 2018, and compare that to now, this has been a huge, huge difference. The amount of water that is flowing south through the Everglades and all the way to Florida Bay, and you can see Florida Bay, compare the salinity levels today to where they were 5 or 6 years ago. This has been really, really meaningful. And it's there for all to see, which brings us here today. So we started first fiscal year of my term. For the second term, we did almost $1.7 billion, which is a huge way, almost halfway to our $3.5 billion goal. I am going through all the things in the budget right now, and there's a lot of different line items, and we're going through, and some are going to make it, some are not going to make it. But what I can say here today is that I have approved in this coming year, upcoming fiscal year for 24-25, that I have approved another $1.5 billion for Everglades restoration and water quality improvements. That's going to be really, really meaningful. So we started January 2023 saying over the next 4 years, we were going to hit $3.5 billion, very ambitious. Now, with just the first 2 years out of the 4, we will have knocked out $3.1 billion for restoration of the Everglades and for water quality improvement. And so we're not only on track to meet that promise, we are on track to exceed that promise by a country mile. And we'll continue to work to make sure that happens. And so this will mean from January of 2019 to the present, $6.5 billion that the state has invested in Everglades restoration and water quality improvements, and that's more than any period in the state of Florida's entire history, even adjusted for inflation. So the money that we're approving in the budget that will take effect July 1st includes, of the $1.5 billion, we have approximately $850 million for Everglades-specific projects, and that's going to be a number of different ones. We have $614 million to support the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan and the EAA Reservoir, and this will be the highest single-year investment in SERP since its founding in 2000. So that's a quarter of a century, just about. We're also going to be able to dedicate $100 million for the second phase of the C-51 reservoir, which will support the water needs of Palm Beach and Broward counties, while also reducing freshwater discharges to the Lake Worth Lagoon, and that will improve the quality of water in this region. Additionally, the funding also includes $530 million for targeted water quality improvement projects. We will be investing $135 million in the Water Quality Improvement Grant Program. So that funds projects to reduce harmful nutrients in our waterways. and that's things such as wastewater treatment upgrades, septic to sewer conversion. It can run the gamut. We're doing $100 million, and this is additional to the significant investment we've already made to support water quality improvement projects in the Indian River Lagoon, which is a really important ecosystem in the state of Florida, and then another $45 million for Biscayne Bay and Caloosahatchee water quality improvements. So you look down in southeast Florida, but also in southwest Florida, it's going to make a really, really big difference. And so this is in addition to what we announced when I signed SB 1638 with some of the gaming revenue, and there's a lot of that that's coming in. I think we're actually going to get way more than we even anticipated when we signed the compact. And remember, when I came into office, the Seminole Tribe was paying nothing. So they have two of the most lucrative casinos in the world, in Tampa and in Hollywood, and they were paying nothing. And so the state, we needed to get an agreement that could stick, where we could get some revenue share, and we've been able to do that. I think it's been good for the tribe, but it's definitely been good for the state of Florida, and you're going to see that as a lasting legacy with the things that are going to go in to conserve Florida's natural resources. And at the end of the day, my view is that we as Floridians, as Americans, we want to utilize natural resources. We want to enjoy natural resources. It's great that people take annual trips to come to Florida to fish or to go boating or to enjoy our beaches and to do all these different things. And I want people to do that. I think that that's good. I'm not somebody that thinks, we should all live with no electricity in some hut somewhere because I want us to use it. I want us to really enjoy it. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to waste resources. We don't want to rob future generations of that same enjoyment that we're having. And I think what we've done over these last 5+ years is really ensure that we're leaving the state of Florida better to the next generation than what we found it. And we're happy to do that. So I'm excited to be able to announce that this money has been approved. So you can mark that down for July 1st. That infusion is going to happen, and we're going to keep working hard. And we push hard on these projects. I mean, we've broken ground, we've completed a lot. There's a lot of moving parts, but we want to get this done. And if you compare how the state has moved on the EAA reservoir versus the feds, it's a much different operational tempo. We're just pushing forward because we want to get the job done. So I appreciate everybody that's been involved in this. I do want to thank the legislature, particularly President Kathleen Passidomo, for really getting behind these projects, getting behind our conservation initiatives. I think when we started off in 2019, people viewed this as a very heavy lift because it just it hadn't been done that way in many years. And I think now there's a lot of people in the legislature that are racing to be able to support these initiatives because I think citizens throughout Florida appreciate that we're taking this effort, and we've got a great state, but we got to do what's right, and so that's what we're doing here today. So I'm happy to be able to make this announcement. I'm glad we're able to do it at the Cox Science Center. We've got some more great stuff that we're going to be approving in the budget over the upcoming weeks, so stay tuned, and there will be some more stuff relating to environment and natural resources, which I think is going to be really, really exciting. Now I want to turn it over to some of our speakers. So we'll start with Secretary Sean Hamilton, our DEP Secretary.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Governor. I know the governor said Rome wasn't built in a day, but I know who the governor wasn't at the time, or else I think they would have been a lot further ahead, a lot quicker. So, Governor, I just want to thank you for the bold promises during your administration. Again, ensuring our environmental resources are protected from generations to come is something I think every Floridian should connect to and appreciate the governor's steadfast commitment in those efforts. And again, the governor mentioned he made a lot of bold promises, but what's important is those promises have not only been kept, they have been exceeded. And I think, kiddingly, my expectations, not only are they being met, they're being blown out of the water. And so I always struggle when I hear him say that he's going to ask for billions of dollars. I always struggle with trying to understand how is that possible, considering somebody who's been with the agency from 18 years and understand the challenges that we face, the focus, the lack thereof, and knowing that we have a governor now who's willing to commit those type of resources, put his money where his mouth is. Again, it's really a great day for the environment, and I'm really happy to have Governor at the helm leading us that way. So as you heard, since 2019, the governor mentioned $6.5 billion. Again, yes, that is billion with a B. You know, changing your vernacular when you talk about funding in the environment, it takes a little time. And so often I substitute million because that's the world I used to live in. And now I have to appreciate saying a billion every chance we get. And again, the governor mentioned $1.5 billion for Everglades restoration and water quality improvements just alone. That is amazing. Obviously, the governor committed 3.5 for this upcoming term, and to know that we're already at 3.1 billion lets you know the governor would have been a horrible marathon runner because he does believe in sprinting every first 5 miles, right? But if you're going to sprint, I can think of no more of a noble cause than our environment and natural resources. So thank you, Governor. And so over almost $850 million for Everglades restoration. Saying when you say that's the biggest in Florida's history, again, I don't think we understand the context of saying that and the appreciation for that. If you understand, and I'm sure Drew will talk about it, the momentum that commitment creates on project development, project execution. Again, obviously it is somewhat of a marathon, but that type of commitment, that focus, that ability to call that leadership to fruition is amazing. And you're seeing the fruition of those projects come on the line, and we're really excited to continue to see that progress of restoring American Everglades. But as the governor mentioned, it's not just the Everglades. The investments in water quality benefit our entire state. It is the lifeblood of our economy, our tourism, and everything we hold dear in Florida. And so over $500 million will go toward the targeted water quality improvements that the governor noted. You know, whether those are in creating more wastewater capacity at higher treatment regimes, converting thousands of septic tanks, getting nutrient pollution out of our stormwater. Those are projects in your local communities that are matched by local dollars. And you're talking about setting a foundation for problems we have today, but also setting the framework to continue the amazing growth in the economy we see here in our state. And I love the fact that the governor talked about some of our great water bodies, whether it's the Indian River Lagoon, Biscayne Bay, the Caloosahatchee Estuary, our outstanding Florida Springs. They all benefit from those projects. They all need the support. And again, I champion any of you guys to stay connected to the efforts as they play out. Now let's talk a little bit about the future. Obviously, the communities benefit from this. Our state benefits from this. But again, our natural resources are at the heart of everything we hold dear. And so in order to be good stewards, to leave Florida better refined, it's going to take a collective and balanced approach to be able to accomplish those goals. And Governor DeSantis' vision, his leadership for the environment has created an incredible momentum for the state and all that should be really embraced. And so I just want to thank the governor for his steadfast commitment in support of our mission and the legacy of environmental stewardship he's going to leave behind. So thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Sean. Millions, billions. Can you imagine? So I'm Drew Bartlett, Executive Director of South Florida Water Management District. And like you, Governor, I've dedicated my life to serving the public to try to make things better than they were before I got here. And I'm focused on the environment. Governor, you're at definitely a higher level than that. But to be given the opportunity that you have given us is just incredible for public servants. And I want to introduce my board. So I've got 5 members of the board sitting here in the audience. These are volunteers, folks, and they dedicate themselves to the South Florida Water Management District as if they're paid, and they are not. And so I just want to thank them for everything they do for us. It's incredible. So 5 years ago, the governor challenged me to come down and run this South Florida Water Management District. And he said, I want you to achieve more now. Emphasis on now, not, achieve more sometime, now. And with the 70 projects he mentioned, we got on board quick. And he was there every step of the way, making sure that we had the funds to get the job done, and we've been getting it done. This coming Wednesday, Number 70, we cut that ribbon on number 70, which is this underground 7.5-mile wall between Everglades National Park and the living communities to the east. That wall is keeping the water in the park and keeping those communities dry. It's great for the Everglades, it's great for Florida Bay, and it's great for the communities. It all works together. He started and removed Old Tamiami Trail. He started and finished that 6,500-acre wetland treatment system going between Lake Okeechobee and the Everglades. We are cooking with gas here, folks. There is so much happening in the South Florida Water Management District. You just got to imagine what's happening. We will have a reservoir both east and west of the lake finished, completed, online next year to protect the St. Lucie estuary and the Caloosahatchee estuary. We will have more than 100,000 acres of wetlands restored, both in the Kissimmee River Valley and over in Collier County at Picayune Strand. We will have every single wetland treatment marsh finished next year for protection of Biscayne Bay. Things are absolutely happening. They're difference makers, and it's really exciting to be here at the Water Management District. But it says Everglades restoration here, right? It's so much more than the Everglades. It's estuaries, it's bays, it's rivers, it is our communities, it's our livelihood, it's businesses. That could be resiliency, right? It's keeping water in our system for our environment and for people. It is the way of the future. And 2 weeks ago, when you signed 1638, that just recognized there's 9 million people down here in South Florida from Orlando south depending on us at the Water Management District. Governor, you have not blinked. You've risen to the challenge. Every time we say something needs to happen, we're ready, can we go? And he goes and gets the money. It is phenomenal work here. And as a public servant for my entire life, I am excited about this opportunity. Not only do I thank you, Governor, for everything you've done to put us in this position to make a difference, but all the 1,500 staff at the South Florida Water Management District have been waiting for this day to be able to make that difference for our communities. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor. Eric Eichenberg with the Everglades Foundation. On this Earth Day, I can't think of a better topic to celebrate and to honor than the Everglades and the importance of this national treasure right here in our backyard. Governor, I fondly recall January of 2019, where we were all huddled on a brisk morning in Tallahassee for your inaugural address, where you outlined specifically what you would do for the Everglades, ending discharges, and ensuring that we returned this natural treasure that God had given us for future generations, and you've done that. But then 2 days later, we arrived together in Bonita Springs on another brisk morning, and you outlined a bold plan for the 4 years that you've just highlighted that has not only brought countless communities together, but it has broadened the coalition that drives the clean water economy here in the state of Florida. Tourism, real estate, fishing, boating, the hospitality industries that all rely upon water, and they rely upon protected natural resources. Governor, you highlight these massive numbers. I remember in 2011 driving to Tallahassee to talk to your predecessor about taking SERP funding from $35 million to hopefully 70. We asked for a doubling of SERP money. You're now here this morning talking about over $600 million going to the comprehensive Everglades restoration plan. What a magnificent journey this has been. 40 years ago, Governor Graham outlined the Save Our Everglades initiative. 25 years later, Jeb Bush talking about the comprehensive plan, bringing the state of Florida to that federal-state partnership. And now today, 6 for 6, beginning in 2019 with the amount of resources, asking the legislature to commit to Everglades restoration. You have delivered every step of the way. And these dollars that are going to massive infrastructure projects that the governor highlighted that are now coming online, that will be online by the end of this decade. It takes leadership Everglades restoration has crisscrossed generations and decades for a very long time, but it has taken key people to stand up and to say that we're going to do this because it's about future generations, and this governor understands the importance of that. The legacy of this administration as governor will be to connect Lake Okeechobee down to the Florida Keys. That reconnection of water, recharging the Biscayne Aquifer, which is the drinking water for southern Palm Beach County, Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe County, of a growing population. We are desperate to continue the resource of water to have, and this governor has committed to that from the very beginning. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas is credited with saying that the Everglades is a test, and if we pass this test, we may be able to keep the planet. Well, Governor, here now in the 6th year, you continue to move us towards that ultimate test of restoring and protecting this ecosystem in perpetuity. Governor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis, and welcome everyone here to the Cox Science Center and Aquarium. My name is Kate Aritza. I'm the president and CEO here at the Science Center. We're so happy to have you all here today, but I am equally as excited that we have a governor here in Florida that cares about our precious environment. Every year, hundreds of thousands of visitors come here to the Science Center to learn about our Florida's resources, see our aquariums, and hear about the Everglades. Keeping our environment protected is vitally important to our visitors here and our residents. As a third-generation Floridian myself, I want to pass along to my children all of the wonderful things that I got to experience growing up here. Our business here at the Science Center thrives on tourism. Among the top reasons that tourists visit Palm Beach County are family activities, entertainment, and arts and culture, all of which we do here at the Science Center. In a little over a week, we are breaking ground on an entirely new Science Center that will serve over 1 million visitors annually, and we will become the #1 ticketed attraction here in Palm Beach County. We're excited. Families and tourists will come from all over the state to learn more about science and how to keep Florida's natural resources protected. The largest part of the newly built Science Center will be the state-of-the-art Kenneth C. Griffin Aquarium. Because of the Science Center's proximity to the Everglades, the exhibits in the new aquarium will focus heavily on the wonders of the Everglades, and we will showcase efforts underway in the state to restore Everglades and protect it for future generations. The aquarium will be one of the largest in the state with additional topics such as shark research, coral conservation, and of course, we will teach our visitors what they can do today at this moment to protect our environment. I would like to thank the governor and his staff for always supporting the mission of the Science Center, which is to open every mind to science. We are able to build this new Science Center because of our incredible board, some of which are here today, and our incredible donors like Howard and Wendy Cox. Also, we are in this great position because the Science Center was able to stay open during the pandemic and do it safely. I would like to thank you, Governor DeSantis.
And I also just want to thank Howard and Wendy Cox for all that they've done. I mean, they've devoted a lot of resources to this. You know, the state has helped because it's a worthy project, and they were able to convince the legislature that this was something that could benefit the community, which it clearly is doing, and it survived my veto pen, so they get it, right? And but whatever the state has done is a fraction of what people have done, particularly led by Howard, by putting in private resources into this facility. And so it's an example of really someone going above and beyond to serve the community. So I want to thank him for his leadership. I want to thank Wendy for her leadership. It's really making a difference. And with that, I'm happy to take some questions. Yes. Well, first on what's happening in these college campuses, if I were in charge, I would send the Justice Department after those universities, because this is unacceptable to have this type of anti-Semitism where it's not just bad speech. They're really targeting Jewish students. It's a hostile environment and violates the civil rights of those students. And these universities, they just aren't willing to do what needs to be done to ensure. I can tell you this, in Florida, at our state universities, there's a code of conduct. You have a right to protest and stuff, but you don't have a right to harass other people. You have a right to put a target on someone's back based on their religion or ethnicity. And if you're doing those things, you're going to be shown the door. I think these students, if they're foreign students on visas, their visas should be canceled and they should be sent home. That should just happen. Second, if it's students, American students, and they're violating code of conduct, you start expelling people, the behavior will change. Right now in higher education, particularly in those schools up there, the inmates run the asylum. And so the students do this stuff knowing there's not going to be any repercussions. The minute there's repercussions, you will start to see a change in behavior. And so I think what's going on up there is disgraceful, but I think Biden has been very weak in basically allowing that to happen without getting the Department of Education and the Department of Justice involved, which I would have done. Now, on the Everglades front, so, on the southern reservoir, the EAA reservoir, we move very quickly. The federal government has not moved as quickly. It's not as easy as us. We could just do it. I mean, it's their responsibility on that. But I think my philosophy on this has been anything we can do, we should just do. We should take the initiative. I think a lot of governors around the country, they'll have different plans and they'll want to propose things as long as the feds are writing the check for them. That's not how we operate here. All the things we've outlined, the things that Eric talked about, Drew, things that the Secretary talked about, that was the state doing it. We led and we've pushed forward. So we're meeting milestones, we're exceeding expectations. The federal government has a much different tempo on this. They have put some money into it after really many years of being in the doldrums, and it started in the Trump administration. And we're thankful for that, but it's just a different tempo. And unfortunately, that's just the reality. But I will say, I don't think there's any other state in the country that has taken on projects this ambitious and actually put its money where its mouth is and gotten the job done. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to continue to do. But anything we can do, we want to do. But there's certain things that the feds have purview over. For example, Lake Okeechobee, the discharges. That's not the state. That's not South Florida Water Management. That's the federal government that has discharged water into the estuaries, and particularly in past years where it's gotten really bad. 2016 on the East Coast, 2018 on the West Coast of Florida. All the infrastructure we're building will make it so that if the lake gets high, we can clean the water and then send it south or send it where it's not going to cause a problem. And that's been a big driver about why we're doing what we're doing. But they are ultimately the ones that are in control of Lake Okeechobee. Well, I think what Eric said is the number one thing. The way the Everglades operated before man came in was the water would flow, and it was a natural. And it's actually, the Everglades is a river. People say it's a swamp. It's actually a river. It's a river of grass, and the water would move south through there. It's a natural filtration system. It would go to Florida Bay. So it was better for the aquifers, better for what happens at Florida Bay, our fishermen and all that stuff. And that connection has been severed over the years, largely through actions of man. And so what we're doing is we're restoring that connection. I don't know the amount of water that's going south today versus 5 years ago, it's significantly more, but how much more, would you say? Twice? Yeah, so we've doubled the amount of water, and there's more to come. So the EAA reservoir is really the centerpiece of that, because you can have a rainy season, you can have that, you're going to be able to clean that water, send it south, and that's going to be good for everyone. It'll be good for here on the coast that are far north of the Florida Keys. It'll be good for Fort Myers and places over on the west coast. So, but ultimately, it's restoring that flow of water south. They were saying before I become governor, send water south. No one was sending water south. Now we're sending water south. All right, thanks everybody. God bless. Have a good one.